go into a bit more depth on Aquanav as well. Which then takes us, so that was 12 minutes, fantastic. And so now over to WRC, to Glenn, taking us through in-pipe solutions.
Thank you, Jez. Right, so I'm here to talk about in-pipe solutions for the efficient identification and resolution of leakage in large diameter mains. So to begin with, I think a key message here is it's important to have a think about what's actually happening down there, because identifying leaks is one thing, but what you then do about it can be beneficial if you've been able to identify some of those other factors. So when you get into decision making, do you repair? Is there a weak section of main that you are then susceptible to further failures? What's actually happening is an important question when making that decision. There can be air pockets and gross metal loss on certain areas. There can be jointing issues. There can be all sorts going on. So what I'd like to talk about today is a bit about how you might think of it differently when it comes to large diameter mains. I think why just the large diameter? Well, historically companies have reported total leakage, not in all cases, but typically based on DMA leakage plus trunk mains and service reservoir losses. So in some cases that's been calculated using the burst and background methodology. Now it's pleasing to see, with firstly the new reporting methodology, but also the stretching performance commitments for leakage, that world is leaving us, and that could really be a disincentive for companies to actually go out and look for anything wrong with the network upstream of DMAs. Effectively, with the burst and background methodology, go and find more leaks, and it would reduce leakage and demand in real terms, but in terms of reporting could push it up. So that was one sort of development has been companies are pushing towards tile analysis. So there's a bit more focus now starting to shift onto upstream of DMAs, and rehabilitation of those mains is prohibitively expensive. So I think it's important to understand condition and performance. So I'm just doing a very quick run through of three of our solutions. So we've got Sahara, which a number of UK companies use quite frequently. So that's a tethered solution, inserted under pressure through a 50mm tapping, but can only go downstream into the flow with a range of a couple of kilometres. So that's 150mm mains and above. A couple of the free swimming solutions, Smartball, which that can be inserted and extracted under pressure through 100mm tappings, range of up to 40 kilometres, but minimum diameter there is 250. And then for really large pipes, pipe diver, that can be inserted, free swimming, 300mm tapping to insert in a range of 40 kilometres, but we're talking minimum diameter there of 400mm. So these techniques can be fitted with acoustic sensors for detection of leaks, but can also carry out CCTV, gross metal loss, and other assessments like conductivity. So yeah, Sahara. This, like I say, it's inserted, and we've got a couple of kilometre range with this. So the in-pipe sensor passes any leaks and allows detection of the noise and confirmation of where leaks are. So it's got a tracking system in place to sort of avoid false positives. Operatives undergo typically around 18 months of training before they carry out surveys, and this can give indication of depth as well. And there's been over 15,000 Sahara surveys completed in the UK. Push rod, just a slight variation here. This is where there is no flow present in mains and there's a need to inspect, or you need to survey against the flow. So I think that can be some difficult to access points, can be quite useful if you want to gather CCTV or do leak detection in those circumstances, access being a key issue. In terms of enabling works, then just not going to dwell on this one, but there are different options available. Access is something that can put people off, so we do advise on suitable techniques to reduce the enabling costs, so we can go through via through bore hydrants. There are other solutions such as Hydrant Wizard. existing assets such as air valves can be adapted. So that's the message there, is just talk to us if you're interested in this this type of survey. So, quick case study of using Sahara. There was quite a pressing time window here, so an 8-hour window with a fire main with no flow. So this had to be isolated from pumps. Sahara had to be inserted, the fire main was repressurised, and the survey was undertaken to coincide with a low tide. So that was the key constraint, was tide timetables. Leak was found and marked up, survey equipment retrieved and extracted, and the fire main was back in service on time. So just a sort of an example, this can be done under quite tight time constraints. Also worth just mentioning raw water. We always tend to focus on everything that's come through the distribution input meters. This is just an example of raw water mains with zebra mussels located using CCTV, causing blockage, etc. So I think just a very quick message there. Don't forget about raw water. Doesn't necessarily hit the performance commitments, but in terms of water resources planning, just might be one to think about. Losses prior to the DI meters. It's Smartball, so that can go up to 40 kilometers, free swimming, and typical leak location accuracy within 1 to 2 meters. So again, this really depends on, if you're trying to decide which techniques, depends on constraints such as what type size of pipe are you looking at. If you want to get a longer survey done, then the number of access points can be greatly reduced. But it really depends on the configuration of the network. So this has got a gyroscope. It can detect things like air pockets as well. It can help validate GIS data. So if you're not entirely sure where the pipeline's running, then Smartball can be useful for tracking the pipeline route. Pipe diver as well for the really large mains. So this is the 300 and above mains. So you can see from the image on the bottom left where it identified some quite significant corrosion. So the big question, why does all this matter? In normal distribution size mains, it's expensive when you dig holes and go to do repairs, even more expensive when we're dealing with large diameter. So there's a more pressing need to make sure the leak detection is accurate. But also then we're on to the questions around asset management. What does it actually mean? What do you do? If you repair it once, are you going to be back there dealing with the same main again? And as we all know from the stories in the media, trunk main failures can be particularly problematic in terms of impact on wider society and the public more generally. So actually understanding what's happening, do you need to replace a whole section? That starts to become expensive. So in this sort of before and after, it highlighted a few areas here where there were a lot of sections of this pipe that had no issues, no anomalies. It was just a few areas there that required attention. So full rehabilitation of that main wasn't required, but there was much better insight and understanding after these surveys. Just finally, people sometimes approach us and we don't always get the dots joined together. So I think thinking with an asset management hat on is the message. We can offer asset management solutions to go with the in-pipe assessments. So it's sometimes worth just joining the dots. It's not always the case. Some companies are quite happy just to say we know our assets, we know what we need to survey. Others that perhaps haven't got that level of understanding, then we again quite happy to work in an asset management capability. And I describe a process we've developed to support these tools as asset management light. We're not really too concerned about forecasting 20 or 30 years in the future in terms of how the large diameter pipes are performing, but we do run some ArcGIS processing just to start to help identify some of those areas that might be priority targets for surveys. So just to summarise, we've got video links. I'm not gonna play them now, but they are available on YouTube if people are interested in finding out more about these these solutions. So I think the key message here is it's not always just about finding and fixing. It's that understanding of assets, and can you actually, in the process of finding a leak, just do that bit more to perhaps help you prevent the next leak from occurring, particularly where the consequences can be quite severe in leakage terms, but also disruption, interruption to supplies and damage to property and those type of issues. So thank you for your time, and that's my slides finished.
Thank you very much, Glenn, and that's almost exactly on time. I'm just going to ask you one question, and we'll come back to some others in the Q&A. The Smartball, what happens if you lose it? Okay, that's always the concern in terms of our networks. We're putting something in. What happens?
It's a good question, and to my knowledge, we haven't lost one yet. So I think the process is pretty robust for capturing that as it moves through the system, and it is tracked as well. So if it does go missing, locating it shouldn't be an issue.
Brilliant. Okay, look, there's some questions come in. We'll pick those up in the Q&A going onwards. But thank you very much, Glenn.
Thank you.
Over to our next.